name. Now I'm going to click on New Event and Remote Event, and I'm going to name this the same as the remote event over here. So copy that and paste it into the event name, and a little green arrow should come up. So now all my mobile input's going to go in on this side. Let's have a look at it, and you can see there that we've got a little mobile button which we can click on. Doesn't do anything yet, but it's ready to go. So now let's add functionality to that button. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move it around, scale it up so that it's actually a usable button instead of just being a random one that's in the middle of the screen. So I'm just going to move the coordinates around until it's on the bottom left of the screen. And I'm just going to tick all of these boxes. Right. I'm just going to change the sizes down a little bit to 0.35 and 1, and the active sizes to 0.17 and 1. Change the values around a little bit first. There we go. Okay, so let's get this button actually doing something. So over here I'm going to right click in the Kismet panel, go to New Event, Input, and Mobile Look. Okay, so let's get the character moving. New Action Math Multiply Float. I'm going to connect that to the input active. I'm going to create a new float variable which is plugged into A, plug that into the strength, and then I'm going to create a secondary float which is going to be my run speed. Which you can see there. I need to change that to a named variable though. I'll do that in a second. Okay, so let's get the new action actor and set velocity. New action actor, and I'm going to plug the velocity float there into a new float which is going to be plugged into my result. Okay, cool. Now I need my mobile placeable pawn variable. And to do that I'm just going to click on the mobile placeable pawn in the scene. I'm going to click on the mobile placeable pawn in the scene and right click and add that variable in, and then I'm going to attach that to the target. And I'm just going to output the velocity into the velocity direction and change that variable to a named variable so that it's referencing my run speed. That's better. Okay, cool. Now I'm just gonna the last thing I'm going to do is name the target zone name so that it's referencing the right button. I'm going to give it a common name of movement just for reference sake. Let's test it out. Okay, cool, so we've got a running character. But unfortunately we're not done yet. Now if I leave the stick moving, the character will keep on going indefinitely, and we don't want that. What we want is for the character to slow down and come to a stop when we aren't pressing the button. So to do that, I'm going to add a little bit more code. So first I'm going to create a new comparison. I'm going to plug this into the mobile look inactive output. I'm then going to plug the A part of the comparison into the final speed output. I'm then going to create a new, I'm then going to go to new action, actor and set velocity. Then again I'm going to go to new action, math, subtract, float. Then again, new action, set variable, float. Now I'm going to plug the set float and subtract float output into the set velocity. Plug the comparison output A less than B into set float. Plug the subtract float into the comparison float's A more than B output. Create a new float in B for compare float and leave it 0. Put a new float into subtract float's B input and set that at 20. Plug the rest of its inputs into the final speed float variable. Plug the set float value output into the 0 float in the B output of the comparison, and the target into the final speed variable. Now, while plugging in the rest of the float variables, I'm going to explain what this actually does. While the joystick has no input, i.e. it's not being moved, it finds the player's velocity, and if that velocity is more than 0, it subtracts 20. It will do this until the velocity is less than or equal to 0, at which point it sets the velocity to exactly 0. This not only stops the player, but creates a speed fall off where the player slows to a stop instead of just stopping. Finally, to create a loop, I'm going to plug the set velocity output into the compare float input. Then I will right click on the outputs of the set velocity and click delay. I'm going to set this at 0.01, so every 0.01 seconds it's looping around and performing this check. So the next thing to do is to set up our gun and get the player shooting.